I'm Maraia. I'm 17 years old. I'm from Anaheim, California.
Do you go to school?
Not anymore. I took this test to get out of school.
Do you want to go to college?
I do, but right now I'm just trying to work on my promotion and music until I turn 18. And if it's like not successful by then I'll go to college.
When did you start throwing shows?
I started throwing shows a year ago, right before my 16th birthday.
Did you always grow up out here?
I did, yeah. I lived in Anaheim for pretty much my whole life. I lived in South Orange County for like a year, but then I moved back over here.
Do you like living here?
I do. I honestly, I'm really proud of my community and where I come from.
What got you into throwing shows in the beginning?
Well, for me, I just really liked certain lineups more than others, and I wanted to try to create some of my own. And I don't know, I was just always seeing other people's shows and they looked so cool to me, and then I was like, I want to try to do this but add my own flair to it and insight, see what I can do. And also it just makes me really happy to I don't know, make people happy, I guess.
What were the kind of lineups that you were drawn to?
My first real show was an indie show, a chain reaction, and it was one of my friend's bands. It's TI-85, shout out TI-85. And then I got into more classic punk, and then just hardcore. Then I got into a bunch of other stuff, hardcore, emo, whatever. But yeah, I think I'm just drawn to lineups that are just interesting, no matter what the genre is.
When did you start playing music?
I've been playing music my whole life. My band started last year, but I've been singing and just making noise for my whole life.
What's your show promotion?
Gecko Presents.
And so you guys did Girl Fest recently, right?
Yes, we did.
So what made you come up with the idea for Girl Fest?
I've seen a lot of femme-fronted lineups, but I hadn't seen a huge fest with 15 bands that are all femme-fronted or have femme members in it. So I was like, I think this needs to happen. I was planning it for 6 months before it happened because I just felt like I really needed to do it. And also just being a femme in the music industry, it's definitely not the easiest sometimes. The community is definitely getting better and more inclusive, but there's still there's still a lot of sexism.
Yeah.
It's just shit like that.
Do you have any personal experiences you would want to share about being a femme in the music scene?
Bad and good?
Yeah.
Well, for good, I've just met so many just great people. Just meeting other people that are similar and want to also create an inclusive environment. Some of the bad things have been just people belittling me or acting like I'm dumb or things like that. You know what? Whatever. Stuff happens, but...
Yeah, you're I've been doing this since I was 15. Shut up.
Yeah. No, sometimes I get grown men and they're like, you're cringe and dumb. I'm like,
okay.
Sorry. My bad.
And how did Girl Fest go?
It went really well, honestly. We did one just kind of mixed genre night, one mostly indie night, and then one more hardcore and punk night. I honestly loved each night equally. Each night was so different in the best way possible, and I just loved getting to connect with all the bands and artists and stuff. And a lot of them were my friends too, which was cool. Some of them brought me up on stage to play with them, which was
that's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah, but that was I think it was just a really good experience. I just felt really happy after. I felt like it was successful.
How many instruments do you play?
I play guitar, bass, and piano, but I'd say I'm better at guitar. But overall, I'm a vocalist.
When did you start Washer?
I started Washer September of last year. So I was in another band before, and then we were planning our first show, and we had an extra spot on the lineup, and I was like, what if I just put something together real quick? And I had a couple songs. Washer used to just be my solo project. It was Maraia and the Mouth Breathers. It was just my solo stuff, and I was just like, can somebody play for me?
Yeah.
And then my friends were like, yeah, sure. But then it ended up just evolving into something more. Now we all write together, but Yeah, that started last year, and we kind of did a 180 with the band in January. We changed up the genre, changed the name, because I liked doing the songs. Like, I like doing my own songs, of course, but I was only doing that before they told me they want to write with me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, yeah, let's write together.
Mhm.
And now it's even better.
What genre was it before, and what is it now?
I'd say it was probably like alt rock, indie type rock, melodic, maybe a couple elements of other things. Right now, I literally don't know. We take elements of like so many things. I don't know. You could probably find influence of alt rock, screamo, hardcore. I think it's cool what our genre has evolved into, though, because we all have so many different influences, and it's cool to see them all come into one thing.
Who are your band members?
We got Joaquin and Frank on guitar. We got Josh on bass and Alex on drums.
And so you're the vocalist?
Yes.
And what's it like being the only femme in a band?
You know, I did not want that at first. I was very adamant about I cannot be in a band with all guys. I don't think I can do it. I just cannot. And I was only in girl bands, and I still would love to be in a girl band and all that type of stuff. But I just ended up clicking really well with these dudes, and it's a good experience. And I feel good with them, and I feel safe. They're just so sweet. They're the best. I love them. They're my dogs. Yeah.
Do you write most of the lyrics?
Yeah. I write the lyrics and then some of the instrumental, and then they kind of finish off the instrumental.
Nice. So what do you draw inspiration from when it comes to writing lyrics?
I'd say I take inspiration from folk and indie rock because of the contemporariness. I don't know. Just the melancholiness, stuff like that. But I also take a lot of inspiration from hardcore and death metal shit because of all the heavy descriptions of violence and shit.
Yeah.
It's cool to see how I can do that in my own songs. There's a lot of influence. Probably some screamo too. I love Orchid and then Unwound. They're not screamo. Yeah, they're one of the main inspirations for the band. And then also I'm not ashamed for admitting this, but Radiohead. People we all have our different experiences with music.
What topics do you like to write about?
I like to write about my mental health a lot. Just kind of shit that's going on in my head. And I guess some romance stuff is kind of fun sometimes, but I like to disguise it so it's not I love you. It's really hard for me to write a happy song. I don't think I've ever once written a happy song. There's one song I have that I wrote a long time ago with Alex from Washer and Tula, our former bassist of Washer. Shout out Tula. She's in Georgia right now.
Oh, wow.
She's goes to college there now. But yeah, we wrote a song in my freshman year, so that was oh my god, almost 4 years ago. The instrumental's really happy, and then the lyrics are I'm never going back, it's about depression and shit. It's just funny because the instrumental's so happy.
So when did you start going to shows?
I started going to shows when I was 14. My first DIY show was Independence Park, Fullerton. I low-key don't remember the bands because it was my first show. That was my first experience at a show that felt like the real scene to me. And I think it was a good experience for my first show. I got beer poured on me the first time I stepped into the pit, busted my lip open, and it got rolled. Not those are huge things, but for your first show, it's nice to experience all that at once. Yeah. So I remember the first time I saw the pit, I was holy fuck. I was you can actually do this and not get made fun of. I'm what? I have ADHD. I'm medicated now, so it's a little bit more. It's just a little bit better. Thank you, Adderall. When I first saw the pit, I was oh my god, I need to do this. I have ADHD, and I'm always just moving around. Not as much anymore, but I'm always jittering and shit. And I would always spin around in a circle for hours when I was younger. There's videos of me literally spinning in a circle for an hour, just not stopping. Don't get dizzy. When I saw the pit, I was ecstatic. I don't even pit that much anymore, just because I get tired easily. Also because now, if I'm going to a show, I'm mostly hosting it now, and I'm I don't want to ruin my energy because I have to move equipment and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta pick my battles. If I go to a show and I hear like a really good song that I like listen to a lot, and I'm like, gotta pick.
Who like brought you to a show?
I went to an art school, so I was in the music conservatory, so I knew some friends who were in bands. Nobody that I knew was like into the niche that I was in, at least. But there was this one guy that I had seen around at my school, and he was in some band that I had seen before, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize you were in this band. And then I was looking at where his band was playing, because I was like, I'm interested in this. Like, I want to start a band. That's cool. And then I was looking at all these places, and I saw, like, FTG Warehouse, Program Skate and Sound, like, Chain Reaction, like, all this shit, and then DIY spots. And then I went to Independence Park. The show was first in Long Beach, and then my mom was so mad. She took us, and then the address got changed because it got rolled. It got rolled the first time, and then we had to move it to. They moved it to Fullerton from Long Beach. So, and we live in Anaheim.
Yeah, so you drove all that way.
Yeah, so my mom was not happy about that. It was worth it, but yeah, that was my first like experience at a show, and yeah, I pretty much just found it just by like stalking people's Instagrams, and then I found all the like pages that promote the shows, like OC Punks. There's so many more accounts now too. It's like Orange County shit, SoCal shows. There's a lot.
Do you host mainly shows at venues, or do you do like house shows and stuff too?
Recently, I've been doing more like house shows and backyards and stuff, but I like to do both, honestly. I think both have their own distinct vibes, and it just kind of depends on the mood and what bands are playing. But recently though, it's been mostly DIYs. It's more work because you have to set up like all the equipment as opposed to having a backline there already at a venue. It's fun, and I don't know, I like the intimacy of it and being able to talk to people more. Because if you're playing like an actual club or something, there's usually going to be a green room, and you're kind of like separated from everyone. I just like the feeling of just a good backyard show. You just get to talk to everyone. It's not like weird.
Did you have like a good experience being in the scene as a young person?
I honestly did. I didn't really have like many friends when I first started going to shows. I had a couple friends come and go, whatever, but I just was kind of on my own. I don't think people really like knew me in the scene until I started throwing shows. And then some people didn't even realize that Gecko was me for a while. And they'd just be like, oh, are you going to that show? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to that show. JK, I'm hosting it.
Is there anything that you would change about the scene?
I don't know, I think just the drama. People make things very public sometimes, and it doesn't need to be. It's okay, most of the people in the scene at this point, like at least for the shows that I'm hosting and going to, are like teenagers to young adults to mid-20s, but we just need to like chill out on the drama. Everyone makes mistakes, but if somebody did something like really bad, then like I get it, but yeah, I just don't like the like meaningless cancel culture. Yeah. And people just not hearing each other out. So there's sometimes it'll just be like the dumbest shit, like a random post about somebody, and then everyone reposts it and they don't know like the truth. As my mom says, we just need to give each other grace. Another thing I'd change in the scene is just this is just kind of gonna come with any scene, calling people posers and shit for like random things. It'll be like, your septum isn't the biggest size, your septum isn't a 0-0 gauge, you're not a punk.
Do you consider the scene like a safe space?
Sometimes. I think at my shows, I try to keep it a safe space, and I think I'm doing a decent job at it. Sometimes it can be considered a safe space, depending on the band's playing, who's running it. I think it also just helps to have a good team. I've been doing most of my shows alone, but my last one that I did, OC versus LA, I had a lot of people helping me for that one, and it was really nice. I think that was my biggest show I've done yet. I think that got about 400 people.
Wow. Where was it?
It was in a backyard in Anaheim.
Awesome, dude.
It was crazy. But it was really fun, and it was my biggest show, but it wouldn't have been the same if I didn't have like everyone helping me. And even just like my friends that I hadn't even like talked to beforehand and asked them for help, they would just help anyways. It was just nice. Yeah. I like the community sense. So I guess also in that way that's like a safe space.
Yeah. Exactly. The community is there to help each other and
Yeah.
uplift one another. That's what the whole point should be. What are some things you do to, like, make your shows a safe space, or advice you would give to other promoters to do that?
Honestly, just checking on people, walking around the place like multiple times. I'm just constantly pacing around the show. And I have a tendency to, like, if I overhear somebody asking a question about the show to their friend, like, what time does this band play? I'll be like, 8:30. But, like, just stuff like that. But just also just being involved in, if somebody gets hurt, helping them, telling other people to move out of the way or go help them, and things like that. Asking people at the end if they have a ride. Like, I've given some of Washer fans a rides home sometimes. Just making those connections with people, it just really helps with making the shows a better community. I mean, of course, I don't know everyone that goes to my shows, but I feel like I know a decent amount of them now, and that makes me happy to just meet new people. And people can just be really nice sometimes.
Do you feel like there's a large number of predators in the scene?
I do. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff. And not that everything that I've heard is true, 'cause we don't know. But there's a lot of stuff that I've just heard from people that is confirmed. And yeah, there's a lot of people.
What do you think is something that we can do about it? Because it's an issue that's been around for, like, forever, and it's really hard to handle. So do you have any, like, opinions or ideas on how to handle those situations?
Honestly, just having everyone involved in getting the person out of the space, or, you know, telling them what's wrong, what they're doing wrong, whatever. Most of the time you can't really communicate with somebody like that, but you can at least kick them out. And if you have more people, like the community, helping you out, then I think it's easier to get rid of them. But overall, I honestly don't really know, in the grand scheme of things, how to deal with it. I think we just keep trying our best.
There's more good people than there are bad. It's just
True.
The bad people are more out there with it. Are you planning on doing, like, another girl fest kind of thing?
I am. That's in the works, but if I do, it's probably going to be next year. So, yeah. I want to move it to a bigger spot next time, and I don't know, I want to do something a little different with it. I'm not sure yet, but something to change it up.
Do you have any, like, Riot Girl influence?
Oh, I do.
Yeah?
A bunch. Yeah, Riot Girl was one of my first influences into, like, everything else I'm into. First it was, like, pop punk that got me into everything else. Now I can't really listen to a lot of the pop punk I listened to in middle school. A lot of it is, like, really cringe to me now. Some of it still bangs. Like, I can fuck with some early Panic at the Disco, you know. But after that, it was Riot Girl and, like, classic punk and hardcore punk. Bikini Kill, Babes in Toyland, 07, Hole.
What stood out to you about, like, Riot Girl specifically?
I think just hearing girls screaming in the music as opposed to hearing a bunch of guys. And it just kind of made me feel like, oh shit, I can do this. Because I was always, not like ridiculed, but like, I feel like for a long time it wasn't as socially acceptable for non-men to be into that type of music. Even though it's like, it's all, like, everyone likes what they like. It shouldn't be, oh, you're weird for that, you're weird for liking that, you're weird for not liking that. There's a lot of judgment with that, and I kind of felt discouraged for a while, and I'm like, I probably can't do it, whatever. And then I heard, like, Bikini Kill, and I was like, oh shit. First time I heard Violet by Hole, I learned it the day of. I was like, I need to sing this. And I've literally sung it, like, 20 times, like, in different places.
What do you think about, like, the Riot Girl, how they would have, like, meetings, and their shows were, like, Riot Girl shows? Like, it was kind of like a separated scene from the scene.
I like that, honestly. I like that it was like a little community, a built-in community in the community. I would have loved to go to one of the meetings. I mean, maybe we can just bring them back.
What are you doing with Gecko Presents right now?
I don't have a ton coming up for the rest of the year. I kind of slow down during this time. I did this last year too, and then I'm going to kind of do more in January. I mostly just have, like, Washer stuff coming up as opposed to Gecko.
Do you guys plan on, like, recording anything?
We do, yeah, we are planning on that. We've recorded a couple songs, and we want to try to get an EP out sometime next year. We have 3 singles out right now.
All right, I think that's kind of all the questions I have for you.
For sure.
Do you want to say like a little sign-off message or
My
something?
sign-off, I'll say some stuff that my mom says. It's never too late. Give grace to people. Respect your fellow showgoers and be a good person.